The month is September, which for most people is just the best days of the year, as the weather is probably the best it will ever be as the holidays roll around. However, for the military, that's the end of the fiscal year, which means spending as much money as possible so you don't lose it next year, and also the dreaded idea that you will have to redo all of those online trainings that are required every single October as the new year starts over. But it looks like we have an ally on our hands, which is the Sergeant Major of the U.S. Army, and this is Sergeant Major Grinston. In an absolutely clear bit of messaging from the top, Army leadership is now telling soldiers not to complete the dozen or so online courses it requires them to take. At the press event on Tuesday at Fort Benning, Georgia, Sergeant Major of the Army Michael Grinston was very blunt, instructing commanders to not assign the courses the Army made mandatory for service members. Let's be honest, the Sergeant Major of the Army is not ordering this to happen directive, above some of the officer levels to put that down. And I hope that his sphere of influence as the top enlisted person can move the needle even a bit, whether it goes from 12 to 8 or we just do absolutely none, because I have some critical thoughts on that. He says, "Don't do it," Grinston says. The top enlisted soldier in the Army said to commanders at the event, "Set priorities for your organization and fight for it." I don't know the Sergeant Major understands that you can't just fight for it and not do it. And it's not like commanding officers out there are going to say, "Guys, just don't do those trainings. They're coming down the pipeline, but fight the man." That is actually illegal to do. And it's kind of funny that these commanders, a lot of them don't have a lot of jurisdiction of what is required and what isn't. God forbid you're not in a job that requires more training beyond these basic annual ones that are just general military training. But God forbid you have your job training that goes with that as well, that maybe comes around. For example, there's corpsmen and medics out there that give flu shots, and every single year they also have to do their flu training on how to give them, and that is another thing. So add it to 13. Grinston, along with Army Chief of Staff James General McConnell and others, spoke as part of the opening day events for the Maneuver Warfighter Conference. Military.com first reported Grinston's comments. The three-day conference is geared around quotations focusing on tomorrow's fight, which includes not just new technologies, but how the Army handles its recruiting, a field which has been seriously struggling with this year. Maybe they've listened to the internet. People have said this. They've said it for so many years, as the Army had the woke commercial that was out there with Emma, and people were talking about that. You had people talking about diversity and extremism training and all these other things, and people were like, what about the warfighter? And now we're finally seeing it. If that's what this event is meant to be, and finally, I'm surprised that it's an enlisted person saying it. Why have we not seen people that are commanders out there saying this same kind of thing? Preparing for the future may also mean ditching some of the Army's current policies, such as the courses, which Grinston was quick to encourage commanders at the briefing to do. Right now, soldiers have to complete roughly a dozen online classes each year in the fields such as ethics, safety, and training. Since they're mandatory, commanding officers often have to deal with the administrative burden and making sure soldiers go online to complete the assignments. And let's also not forget the dreaded idea that this happens every October. And so you have this rope hanging around your neck as you're going to be hung out to dry if you don't have them done before Thanksgiving. And if you don't, you're not going on any leave. And it's pretty much like the dangling carrot in front of you. And a lot of this is on stuff that is just like almost common sense. Safety, think about stuff around you. Ethics, don't do stuff that's mean to other people because of X, Y, or Z reason. It says the online lessons run through the Department of Defense website with a history of crashing, true, can be seriously time consuming. The Army's leaders want to free up that time so it can be spent on more useful objectives, such as preparing for training exercises, keeping up with exercise, or maintaining unit readiness ahead and during deployment. This is especially important for the service as it shifts its strategic focus away from the Middle East and counterinsurgency and toward more conventional, larger scale conflicts with superpowers. I'm glad they noted this in the article. I'm glad whoever wrote this, I think his name was Nick something, or it's Nicholas Slayton. I have to appreciate this man to account for that, because we all know that to make some of these websites work, sometimes you have to go to Microsoft Edge, sometimes it's Chrome, sometimes you got to go to the old Internet Explorer, rest in peace. But that was a very real reality, that some of these things load in certain browsers better than others. Encouraging leaders to stop making life difficult for their soldiers is something of a theme for Grinson, who made a similar recommendation in 2021 when he advised leaders to stop coming up with random training events just for the hell of it. Other Army officials were even more dismissive of the courses, which again, the Army made mandatory for all soldiers. McConville, that general we were talking about earlier, seemed shocked that the required online classes are actually being completed as ordered, saying he never did them when leading a division. Back in my day, right? That's what we're talking about here. We're trying to make us great again. We're trying to get this back to focusing on what matters. And I find it funny that somebody that's at the top is not realizing that these are required. It seems like, what is it only applicable to the people like me out there? Is this just how out of touch we're seeing generals with the rest of the military? Who knows? Also, I want to give a little critical analysis. These are just click as fast as possible, but they're getting smarter, because I've done like 50 of them today. Speaking general trainings, not exaggerating, where you have to click through, and they're getting smarter to where you have to wait for it to play, or you have to click on certain things so it makes you want to stay on that page longer and waste your time. But now it's like, how can we burn the most of your time and make these as unbearable as possible? And that leads to my question. Can't we just cover these topics through a formal talking discussion that would probably be more valuable? Couldn't we actually sit there and realize that people are just going to click around the screen as much as possible to just get through it and progress through it as it's just some kind of hazing event? I would have to say this is hazing. We need to ban it immediately. And that general says, people actually do this stuff. McConville said to the news conference, you don't have time. I agree. McConville has been clear this year that his priority is overall Army readiness. Along with the Secretary of the Army, Christine Wormuth, he has said that the Army has a problem bringing in and retaining soldiers and is focused on new initiatives to better prepare soldiers. That includes a preparatory course for underqualified applicants to take before taking boot camp, as well as a series of enlistment bonuses aimed at getting new recruits to deploy sooner. I agree. We don't have time to be focusing on online trainings. I mean, we've gone to this blended system recently, at least from my experience, where some of them are in person, like important ones, like, the ones hurt yourself, end your life kind of thing. Yeah, that one would be important to do in real life. But then there's some that you're just like, why are we covering this? Why is this a thing? And what this all becomes is literally check boxes. It's everybody just meeting the wicket. What's our percentage? How can we quantify this as much as possible? It doesn't matter if these people actually know the material from the training. God forbid that even matters. We just need numbers. That's all we need. Numbers, numbers, numbers. Production. To seem like we're doing something and to report to people above us that we're actually doing it. And let's be honest, a lot of the people that do these online click-through trainings are staying after work, doing it during their lunchtime, having to stress about this. And I even had this about a week ago where I stayed until almost 6 p.m. just trying to do trainings after I was at work for already 10 plus hours. So I feel the pain, and I'm like, this doesn't have to be this way. We have a better way of doing it. I just think that we should empower our leadership to deliver this if that's what we're going to do. But let me know, what do you guys think about these online trainings? Do you think they should be totally banned and gone away? Or do you think that they have a place for certain things, just nonchalant, not that big of a deal? Or do you think that we should have some just in-person class that goes with this? I'd love to know what you guys think about this. Any other stories that you guys want me to cover, hit me up on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, all the good stuff. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.